The Verizon-Vodafone deal is a significant event in the telecommunications sector. This agreement resulted in Verizon acquiring Vodafone's assets in the United States. The deal took place in 2013 and has since had a major impact on the industry. The importance of the agreement lies in the termination of the collaboration between Verizon and Vodafone's exit from its operations in America. The deal helped strengthen Vodafone's financial structure and allowed Verizon to expand its presence in the United States. It also affected competition in the telecommunications sector and prompted other companies to pursue similar collaborations. This video will provide details about the Verizon-Vodafone Agreement, its industry implications, and potential future effects. You will gain knowledge about the historical background, specifics, and consequences of the agreement. Additionally, you will get an idea of how the telecommunications sector might be affected. Let's get started. What are the potential effects of the Verizon-Vodafone deal on other companies in the telecommunications sector? How much financial gain did Verizon's acquisition of Vodafone's assets in the United States provide? What are your thoughts on the impact of the agreement on consumers? Could there be negative consequences such as price increases? For all this and more, before starting the video, if you're interested in universal economic history, you can subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to be informed about new videos I upload every day. Enjoy the watch.
Universal economic history.
The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement is the result of a long-standing collaboration between two major telecommunications companies. The collaboration began in the early 2000s with several joint ventures. Initially, Verizon and Vodafone formed a joint venture project called Verizon Wireless. This project became the largest wireless telecommunications company in the United States. Verizon Wireless remained a joint venture project between Verizon and Vodafone until 2013. However, in 2013, an agreement was reached for Verizon to acquire the entirety of Verizon Wireless. This meant that Verizon would purchase Vodafone's assets in America. The cost of the agreement was $130 billion, making it one of the largest acquisition deals at that time. The completion of the agreement resulted in Vodafone exiting its assets in America. However, Vodafone continues to operate in many countries worldwide. Verizon, on the other hand, expanded its presence in the United States and significantly increased its value as a company. In conclusion, the Verizon-Vodafone Agreement occurred as a result of a long-standing collaboration between two major telecommunications companies. The agreement is a significant event in the telecommunications sector and has affected competition within the industry. Vodafone had various operations in the United States. These included Verizon Wireless, a wireless telecommunications company, and Vodafone Americas, a provider of mobile advertising technologies. Verizon Wireless was established as a joint venture project between Verizon and Vodafone in the early 2000s. The company became one of the largest wireless telecommunications companies in the United States. Vodafone had a significant presence in the United States due to its stake in Verizon Wireless. Vodafone Americas operated as a provider of mobile advertising technologies in the United States. The company was one of the leading players in the mobile advertising market. With the completion of the agreement, Verizon acquired the entirety of Verizon Wireless, and Vodafone no longer had any operations in the United States. The cost of the acquisition was $130 billion, and Vodafone gained substantial financial gains from this transaction. The value of Vodafone's assets in the United States can be calculated by considering the $130 billion paid for the entirety of Verizon Wireless, along with the value of Vodafone Americas. However, there is no specific information available about the value of Vodafone Americas. In conclusion, while Vodafone had a significant presence in the United States, the Verizon-Vodafone Agreement resulted in the discontinuation of its operations in the country. The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement was announced on September 2, 2013. The agreement involved Verizon purchasing Vodafone's stake in Verizon Wireless. The acquisition resulted in Verizon acquiring all the shares. The terms of the agreement involved Verizon purchasing Vodafone's 45% stake for $130 billion. This deal was one of the largest acquisition transactions in the history of the United States. The acquisition was financed through a combination of cash and Verizon shares. Vodafone received $59 billion in cash and $60.2 billion worth of Verizon shares. The agreement led to Vodafone exiting its operations in the United States. Following the acquisition, Vodafone no longer had any operations in the United States. The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement allowed Verizon to gain full control over its wireless operations and contributed to the growth of Verizon Wireless. With the completion of the agreement, Verizon Wireless became one of the largest wireless operators in the United States. In conclusion, the Verizon-Vodafone Agreement is considered a significant milestone in the telecommunications sector of the United States. The high cost of the agreement and the sale of Vodafone's assets in the United States prompted other companies in the sector to consider similar moves. The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement had different effects on the parties involved and on consumers. Here are the consequences of the agreement. Verizon. Following the completion of the acquisition, Verizon gained full control over Verizon Wireless, which provided more freedom in decision-making processes. The agreement also contributed to Verizon's growth and strengthened its position as a leader in the wireless market in the United States. However, the significant cost of the agreement also affected the company's financial situation. Vodafone. The agreement resulted in Vodafone selling its assets in the United States. This led to a significant change in Vodafone's portfolio. After the acquisition, Vodafone obtained a substantial amount of cash and decided to diversify its portfolio by investing in other areas. Consumers. The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement had various effects on consumers. On one hand, the increased market share of Verizon Wireless allowed consumers to have broader coverage. However, this growth also led to price increases, and consumers had to pay more for certain services. Additionally, Vodafone's withdrawal from the United States made it more challenging for consumers to connect with other international operators. Since Vodafone did not provide services under its own brand in the United States, consumers had to go through a different process to connect with other international operators. In conclusion, the Verizon-Vodafone Agreement had different effects on the parties involved and on consumers. Verizon strengthened its position in the United States, Vodafone diversified its portfolio, and consumers gained broader coverage. However, the cost of the agreement and price increases for certain services had disadvantages for consumers. The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement had significant implications for the telecommunications sector and affected other companies. Here are some thoughts on the industry implications and possible effects on other companies. The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement further strengthened Verizon as the leader in the wireless market in the United States, making it more challenging for other companies to compete. This situation could prompt other companies to pursue similar mergers or acquisitions to enhance their competitive power. The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement resulted in price increases, which could influence other companies in the industry to raise their prices as well. The agreement allowed Verizon to enhance its position as the leading wireless operator in the United States. This may enable Verizon to invest more in new technologies and drive innovation. Other companies may need to follow a similar path of investment to stay competitive. The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement demonstrated the significance of international cooperation and partnerships once again. With Vodafone exiting the United States and diversifying its portfolio, other companies may also seek domestic and international collaborations and partnerships. The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement can serve as an example for future mergers and acquisitions in the industry. This could lead to other companies pursuing similar deals to strengthen their competitive power. In conclusion, the Verizon-Vodafone Agreement was a significant event in the telecommunications sector, and it could have implications for other companies. However, the extent of these effects cannot be precisely determined and will need to be observed in the future. The Verizon-Vodafone Agreement is considered a significant development in the telecommunications sector. The agreement involved Verizon acquiring Vodafone's assets in the United States. When assessing the agreement overall, various factors should be taken into account. On one hand, the agreement strengthened Verizon's position as a wireless market leader in the United States and provided financial gains for Vodafone. However, on the other hand, the industry implications and the impact on consumers should not be overlooked. The possible effects of the agreement include reduced competition, price increases, increased investments, and potential for similar mergers and acquisitions. However, the exact magnitude of these effects cannot be accurately predicted. Factors such as the strategies pursued by other companies in the industry and consumer reactions will play a significant role in determining future effects. While it is difficult to forecast the possible future effects, factors such as increased competition in the telecommunications sector, accelerated technological advancements, and changing consumer demands might lead to further mergers and acquisitions in the industry. In conclusion, the Verizon-Vodafone Agreement was a significant development in the telecommunications sector, and it could have implications for other companies. However, the exact extent of these effects cannot be precisely determined and will need to be observed in the future. Thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, please hit the like button. If there's a specific video you'd like me to make on economic history, don't forget to mention it in the comments section. I wish everyone a pleasant day.
Universal Economic History.